This meeting is for discussions only on the appeals and to review what's been written up. So then we need to approve the minutes of the last meeting of June 20.
We have minutes?
Yeah, we've had them, I think.
I sent them out, but there's a couple of copies out there.
I didn't see them. Were these emailed out?
Yes.
Yeah.
I probably saw them. I must have seen the email.
Dan, did you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Here's the copies.
I know they emailed earlier.
Yeah, I remember seeing them. Yes, I do remember seeing them.
Does anyone have any additions, deletions, or?
I'd like to say one thing. Some of the term expirations might be incorrect. I compared it with the website again today.
Okay.
Nick and I will work that out.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes?
Second. Moved by Dick.
Dick, moved, seconded by.
Do we have a copy of the minutes?
The minutes were from the meeting prior to the last one.
Yes, no, this is correct.
But yes, you're certainly.
June 20. So this being the discussion phase.
Sir, did you vote on those? I just want to make sure, did you vote on?
Yes, we did.
We did motion a second.
Motion. All in favor? Opposed? Matt, did you see them?
One wasn't here, so.
Okay, that's right, I'm sorry. Motion's carried. So this being a discussion on the Brightside Marina appeal application, this is for deliberations for the board only. The public can listen, obviously it's an open meeting and has no input. As far as we're concerned, we'll just discuss it, we'll go down through. Does anybody, everyone has the opportunity to read through what we've come up with so far.
Can I offer just a suggestion?
Yep.
We go through introductions for us and just declare if there's been any communications that would cause anybody to have to recuse from participation.
Okay. All right. Michael Hano, Chair of the Board. Mike?
Mike Hodgins, attorney for the board. I haven't had any discussions with Cosby yet.
And I haven't either.
My name's Jay Bradshaw, and I have not had any discussion, contact with regard to this.
Dick Warren, no discussions.
Sam Hudspeth, no discussions.
George Stoll, no discussions.
Mona Blazer, no discussions.
Thanks. So you want to go down through the first part, each item, or does anyone have any additions, deletions on items 1 through 13? After reviewing.
I have a question on 2 and 3, in the sense that it's a little bit confusing reading them together. And I wonder if we say in 2, on April 5th, the planning board denied both applications. And then in 3, goes on to talk more about the applications, and suggesting that we may want to bring 2 and 3 together and leave it as item 3. On May 3rd, 2018, the applicant filed an administrative appeal, just as a standing item.
So essentially combine 2 with the first part of number 3.
Right. First
And then the last 2 lines of number 3 which you're right, probably should have been a
Right.
separate
Standalone item.
Okay. Just while you're reviewing it, Chairman, so I drafted this, much of the first introductory section was based on sort of the summary that the chairman read at the beginning of the meeting. So that's where most of that came from. Again, some of those paragraphs you were just referring to obviously came from the planning board record that you have.
So continuing on, anybody find anything else?
So we through paragraph 15. Okay.
So we'll go on to finding of facts.
Mr. Chairman, may I inquire of a question of procedure here? I mean, I know you've closed the public hearing, but that doesn't, as I understand it, preclude conversations with the applicant. And I do have at least one point that before you start your findings of fact, because there's no mention here of the issue that you left unresolved at the last meeting that was coming from people at this table over here weren't sure that they agreed with some people over here concerning what the scope of the 2008 permit was, and they wanted time to think about whether that permit, because it referred to acreage as well as the address of the property, and the acreage didn't fit on just the address. That was still an open issue when we left the last meeting, so before you get too far into your findings of fact, you as a board, I think, ought to address that, and it's not addressed here.
I mean, it's addressed, I think, in the first finding paragraph number 1 in terms of what the prior permit was. Certainly if there's discussion or disagreement on that, I think that's why we send it around to make sure that it's got, that people are all comfortable with it. Do you want to go through those? So I would leave it, I mean, to the board in terms of if people have questions or comments on the draft. I would say paragraphs 1 through 6 on the findings of fact. If anyone thought there was either any facts that they thought were significant that had been omitted, questions on the summary of the facts as they are within that section, we certainly could raise that. If there's agreement on it, then we can move forward.
All in agreement?
On item 3, I'd like to see, after the word application, at the end of the item, just an insertion of application number 2-18.
That's in the last sentence.
No, yes, in the last
This is
sentence.
24 Hewlin Road. Prior to-
24 Hewlin Road, prior to the application, Karen, 218, number 218,
And I
Karen to the planning board, just so that it's identified specifically.
And Dick, can I just make sure I've got the right number? I'm looking at the application to the planning board, number 11-18, back up in the first
I think
paragraph.
this is trying to refer to the original,
This is referring to the 2018 application, so the one that
yes,
was filed
but there were
this year.
two filed in 2018.
Okay,
2-18 and
11-.
11-18.
Okay, so refer to both of those.
As I read this, item 3 applies to 218.
Well, I think it would apply to, at least the way I understand, if there were 2 applications to the planning board, if they're 218 and 1118, then it should be applications plural and reference both numbers. Does that make sense?
see, Mr. Grant did not seek a permit for commercial use of 24 Hewlin Road prior to the application to the planning board in 2018. I presume that this was driving at the first application, that is, there was no seeking of a permit for commercial use of 24 Hewlin prior to January of 2018, which would be the initial application
To the planning board.
to the planning board, 218.
Which is 1118.
1118.
What is 218?
218,
1118 was the shoreline zone.
that's a commercial
Right.
development review ordinance, was 218.
Okay, and that, I was just listening to it.
That was the number.
1118.
218 was, we were provided with the CDRO checklist
Yep,
for 218 for 24 Hewlin Road.
okay.
Yeah, okay.
I honestly couldn't find a permit number on that. So again, if that is the CDRO permit, then I think we can reference both. Does that make sense?
Sure.
My intent was to reference, obviously, the shoreline zoning, the shoreline permit
Sure.
application, which Jay just had was 1118.
The other place we can get that 218 reference is in the planning board minutes that we were provided with.
Gotcha.
Also on Andy Dunbar's letter.
Yes. And
So prior to applications, and then reference the two numbers.
Anything else? So on to, everyone's all set, we'll move on to conclusions.
Everybody else is good with those findings? Okay. So then in the conclusions, we try to tie in the facts to the relevant sections of the ordinance that were suggested, argued by parties on both sides. So if anybody has any issues there in terms of any errors in sort of the conclusions reached or application of the ordinance sections or any questions, you can raise those.
And we can have a chance to offer you our observations. You provided these to us in advance, and I don't know why we wouldn't. I mean, I don't know why you would want to hear what shortcomings we think there are here rather than wait 45 days, and because it's going to be on appeal. I mean, do you want to try to narrow the issues now, or do you want to wait till later?
Up to the board, but I ordinarily would say, no.
Right, yep.
I mean, this is deliberation for the board to determine.
I don't disagree that it's deliberate. It means that the public hearing has been closed. It doesn't preclude you from having a conversation with the applicant. It never does. I sense that you simply don't want to hear anything, as opposed to thinking that you have it right. You just don't want to hear if you don't.
No,
Is that right?
This is for deliberations only, and we'll just wait the 45 days.
I mean, I think the only way to look at it is obviously you had everybody had their opportunity to make their points during the hearing. So
Well, that's true, but then you get to the conclusions, which have been drafted by you, Mike, not by the board. And they're your observations of what sections apply, and there are some obvious contradictions here. But if you want to move forward and just
Well, but it's our responsibility to take a look at this. No, this isn't just a blanket rubber stamp. It's our responsibility to take a look at it and make sure that that his notes align. with
I
ours.
understand, Mr. Bradshaw, I understand entirely, and if you don't want to hear anything, then we can't certainly make you do that, so you proceed as you wish.
Thank you.
Okay, so. I have to review it, 1 through 14. Anyone have any changes, additions or deletions? Yep.
I'd like to look at 14. I know we went through the CDRO checklist. I'm not sure that we went through it as thoroughly as the planning board did. And I'm wondering if the language might be, of the first sentence might read something like the board finds that all of the criteria in Article 5 of the CDRO appear to be met, with the exception of Article 5, subsection, I guess, whatever it is, 617, which requires that the proposed activity and so forth. And then add that the CDRO had previously been reviewed by in detail by the planning board.
I'll offer my thoughts on that. On the last part first, because it's a de novo review, you're reviewing the evidence. And then more importantly, I think on, or at least as importantly, on my notes, my recollection is we went through that night and specifically went through every criteria and said either yes or no. The way I wrote this was in part to try to abbreviate the length of it, because you did go through and either say yes or no, depending on how the question read for each subsection, until you got to the part of saying the only part that is not met is the fact that it doesn't comply with the. So I think, my recollection is that you made findings that it was consistent with the CDRO.
I think that's true. I think we also took the planning board review as evidence, and it was certainly far more detailed review, and I'm not sure that we were in a position to maybe provide the same degree of clarity regarding our review of the CDRO. Some of the items that we said no to, I believe, in particular, were not thoroughly discussed. I think we just went fairly quickly through some of them. Not that it would have changed the vote. Just an observation.
I thought we used the checklist from the ordinance.
We did.
We did.
We went down that.
We did. I think
I'm not clear on
we
what.
just did it rather quickly, more crisp.
I guess the question would be if there's anything in particular, any other item in that checklist that you felt was not satisfied, now would be the time to change that or to raise it. Obviously, the planning board did approve all of those other items with the exception of the same one that you've made a conclusion on. But it seems as though at the meeting a month ago, as Jay said, you went through and thought you checked all the boxes.
That appeared to be the case. I just feel we did not necessarily go through every item as thoroughly as we potentially should have. It was just
Do we want to look at it again?
Would you like to look at it again?
I guess if there's, I would suggest if there are pieces that you think that we didn't take a thorough look at, that we ought to identify what those are and discuss them. Because I remember Mike going through the checklist
Oh, yeah,
from the
we
ordinance, and we went yes, no, yes, no. Not all of them were really, when you talk about the stormwater management and some of those other types of things, we didn't collect outside assessment of that information. Is that what you're talking about, those types of things?
All I'm suggesting is we may have been a little bit cursory on a couple of them, but I think that's the way we felt, but we didn't do the kind of analysis that the planning board had done, I don't think. But
Well, then
it's,
we actually should, if you think there are things that are.
I don't have specific things I want to point to and say, we didn't do this item adequately, I'm simply saying it seemed to me we were a little bit maybe too cursory on something, but not that it would change anything, but
I'm just trying to think back. I suppose if there was specific evidence to the contrary on any of those points, for example, parking, traffic, that sort of thing, that you could point to that would cause you to deny the permit for that basis, you could refer to it. But I don't know that there was a lot of testimony or evidence presented that night. I think the evidence to meet those was actually Mr. Dunbar's submission earlier, which also went to the planning board.
no, I didn't hear any evidence presented. Let's let it stand as is then.
So do you think that we need to amend that paragraph at all?
Let's let it stand as written.
I would just put out there that I think that we did go through the criteria with the amount of information that we have here and with the testimony that was provided to us. And based upon what was presented to us, we acted upon each of those items.
I recall that it did come up with, what we had, we reviewed it in detail, and at that time, somebody said, and one of you up there said, has there been any evidence to the contrary that any of these yes or no's are incorrect? And the answer was no. So it did come up. Was there evidence to the contrary? And there wasn't. They're all in the applicant's favor, right?
Right. And I think that they were, my sole opinion is that they were addressed either in the testimony that was provided, in some of the documents that were provided to us, and you're right, those are all in support of the applicant's position. The only ones that created a problem are the ones that are listed here.
So we want to leave it as is, Dick?
Leave it as is.
It's basically the same.
So are we looking now at the findings of fact?
Yes.
No, actually,
Well, now we're
conclusion.
Conclusions.
Page 3 and 4.
Could I go back to the findings of fact for just 1 second? Thank you. I do notice that the Brightside Boat Services is going by two names, Brightside Wind Boat Services and Brightside Boat Services. I think we should probably clear that up, because I think it's an incorporated business.
Which one is that?
The letterhead says Brightside Wind Boat Services. Okay, so it appears in 3. And I think it's yours one at a time too. Three of the findings of fact.
Is that what it was called in the 2008 application?
I don't know the answer to that question. On this letter dated January 18th, January 2018, it's called Brightside Wooden Building Services is located.
So, in my understanding, is that it's a DBA. You can certainly clarify. I think it's probably there's been shorthand names used for it in multiple places, which is probably why it's a little bit inconsistent. The easiest thing may probably be, as you said, to use the name from the letterhead, January 2 of 2018, which was signed by Mr. Grant, which was Brightside Wooden Boat Services.
And that does occur later.
Yeah, so we can make that consistent. I think we know which entity we're talking about. And I would just say, by the way, on the 2008 permit, I don't believe there was a name involved. It was just under Sean Grant individually. So, but I can certainly go through and clarify.
In the 2008, the application supplemented, talked about the business type, the hours of operation, said the business name was Brightside Boat Services, but that didn't appear on that's in the supplemental.
Oh, that's on that attachment.
That attachment.
Oh, yep. Right side.
But then it's Brightside Marina on our more recent documents.
My understanding is that the references, the marina is 24 Hewlin on the water. And either Brightside Wooden Boat or Brightside Boat. But as you said, thanks for giving me some support. It's referenced both ways by the owner. But we can make it consistent. We'll refer to it as Wooden Boat, because that's how the letter refers to it in January 2018. Makes sense.
So we need to change that throughout the document?
Yeah, at least where we refer to boat services.
Well, it might depend on the time too, the timing of whatever you're discussing in the document.
Yep.
I'm not sure it's exactly throughout.
At the end of the day, I'm not sure it's crucial, but you're right, in paragraph 1, we refer, under findings of fact, refer to Brightside Boat Services, because as Jay just said, that's exactly what the name was in 2008, 2008.
So maybe you should just read that then, not maybe not.
Well, but then they referred to it as Brightside Marina starting in 2018. The other documents that were presented to us. I mean, I'm not sure how it's maybe a difference without a distinction, but I think that, maybe there's a way just to clarify that we were talking about the same operation, but different sides of the street.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, or also, what if we put a reference in paragraph 1 to Brightside Boat Services, parens, also known as Brightside Wooden Boat Services, and then refer to it as Brightside Boat. How's that?
And where does Brightside Marina get referenced?
Brightside Marina,
As it was referred to in 2018.
is only with the 2018 permit.
I'm not allowed to interject here at all.
So we just capture all three names in that first paragraph. So that under procedural history.
Oh, procedural.
Yeah, that's where I was. I mean, that's the first place that we mentioned it.
Gotcha.
Guess I would just like to ask the question too, in terms of findings of fact, is there any relevance to, it appears, because I've only lived here a couple of years, and not knowing exactly when it became a marina, is there any relevance for our purposes in terms of the operation seemed to be proceeding for some period of time without question, I guess I'm asking? You know, if this was operating as a marina for the past 6 years, does that have any relevance to our findings of fact?
But it does.
I don't think it does, but I think we're just going on the appeal.
And I don't see a place where it fits within the ordinances and things. I just, you know, as we heard the case last month, it was just, okay, it sounds like, you know, the number of people attested to. That it has been operating in the town for some number of years before this request came in 2018.
My sense is if that took place prior to the ordinances, then that may have been a point to consider, because there might be a grandfathering at that point, but it wasn't being used for commercial purposes when the ordinance was developed. So I'm not sure that what happened in the past, the recent past, is genetic to this.
Just actually to get to that, I tried to address that in finding of fact number 3, which indicates, as the testimony indicated, that as business developed after 2008, it was sort of a progression without a permit. So I did try to capture that.
What's that? Any more questions? Sam? What's that?
So we're back under conclusions. So, any more questions on the ordinance application, ordinance sections that are cited? So then, we can review the decision. Anybody has any changes to the proposed decision? And then if you make a motion to approve it, I'll go back through maybe before you actually vote, just to clarify the changes that I've heard, to make sure that I capture all of them.
So yeah.
Okay, so.
Do you want a motion on the table before you go back and do that review? Oh, okay. I would move that that the town denies the appeal of Sean Grant and Brightside Marina for the commercial use of 24 Hewlin Road, Belgrade, to support a commercial dock and other boat rentals and services in connection with Brightside Wood and Boat Services, or for other similar commercial purposes separate from the Brightside Wood and Boat Service.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
Sam? Seconds it?
And now you want to do the review?
Okay. And, yeah. let me just clarify, and the other part of that is that, are you going to authorize the chair to sign this?
Do we need to do that as part of the motion to?
You could actually do it separately. You could do it separately after you vote. That's taking a separate vote. So the changes, and the reason I want to make sure it was clear is so that we don't have to come back and do this again another time. That you can vote tonight, comfortable that once we make these changes, that the chair can sign it. So in the first paragraph under procedural history, I will add a reference after Brightside Wooden Boat Service to include also known as Brightside Boat Service. I will add after that, the marina is known as Brightside Marina. That's the permit that's being applied for. So we capture all three names in that paragraph. As Dick asked early on, the first half of paragraph 3 I will combine with paragraph 2. And then the last couple lines of paragraph 3, starting on May 3rd, 2018, that's going to become a separate paragraph. So that will become paragraph 3. Under findings of fact, I'm actually not going to make a change. I had a note that said AKA Brightside Wooden Boat, but we're going to capture that in the first paragraph, the first page. At the end of paragraph 3, that last sentence, we will make reference to both of the permit application numbers, Shoreline Zoning 11-18 and CDRO 2-18, so it's clear. Under conclusions, no changes. On the decision, no changes. So assuming I got those correct. You can vote on the decision and then separate vote to have the chair sign with the changes needed.
So we have a motion on the floor by Jay, and seconded by Sam to deny this. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous? In favor of?
Then I would also make a motion that the board authorizes the chair to sign the decision on behalf of the Board of Appeals as revised. The decision as revised on behalf of the board.
Second.
Who seconded it? Thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Yeah, I'll be able to get it to you within a day. Should be able to get it to you tomorrow or Friday at the very latest. And then you can sign it. The vote's final as of tonight.
And then we can send it out.
Yes. Yep. Let's close that now. You continue with it. You don't need the
No?
No, thank you.
On to the next item. That's what they're trying to do. You want to talk for a second. Good seats down front, Ricky.
All right, I'm sitting back here, Larry.
Start the collection plate back. That's it. Right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate your help.
No, thank you, sir. Okay. Not fair, sure. The attorney shall.
Continuing on to the next item.
Ricky, do you have something to say?
I just did, I'm telling
This is a appeals board meeting. If you got something to say, be man enough to speak up and say
you.
it.
I have a problem with the attorney running the meeting.
The attorney was here as our advisor.
I understand.
And he didn't run the meeting. We ran the meeting. He guided us through.
He did all the talking.
No, he did not. You know,
I hope you took a tape of this, because you'll show it. It's okay, just carry on.
he did as we requested he did.
I understand.
Okay, so, next item is the Board of Appeals draft ordinance that we've kind of been putting off and on and back and forth. And
Does Matt have a copy of this? So we just send it.
And I didn't bring that paperwork either.
No, I have Jay's input, and I have somebody else submitted in Dick's, right?
Yeah.
So he could probably work in those copies.
Mike and I sort of talked about maybe tabling that, because maybe most of us weren't prepared to discuss it. I just want to find out
If he has a copy.
if he even had a copy to begin the discussion. So at least for the next meeting.
Who gave that to us? Was it Dennis?
I think
We've emailed something,
we've emailed them back and forth. I think you sent it out the first time, right?
and I sent it out the first time.
Yeah. But Matt didn't get a copy yet.
I think your edits were electronic too, yes, Jay?
Yes.
So I think if we just give everything, you know, I can give the original, well, I'll just give Dick's and
Jay's edits.
Jay's edits to you, Nick. I'll email you to you, so next meeting we can come better informed.
And not the original?
No, you need the original plus,
Plus the edits.
Edits that we sent.
Well, yeah, that's fine. I feel like the edits show the edit marks.
Yeah, well, I think that.
Oh, I see.
See the original.
Yeah, we don't need to go back to the original. Yeah, just the document that was distributed two months ago, right? Yeah, it was from that document that we had a couple of suggestions that we put out, but have not discussed.
And why wasn't present at that one?
Oh, that's right.
Well, we've never
Was one of
discussed
these-
Jay's, we've never discussed you.
No.
And we've never
No.
discussed Dick's
Right.
written.
That's right. All it was comments that were just shared to be brought back when we next met.
So our next meeting, we should just kind of,
Can our next meeting be an easy meeting?
be a what?
Easy meeting? These last couple of meetings.
Oh, you're young.
Oh, God.
That's good.
So if we come to the next meeting having reviewed Dick's edits and Jay's
Jay's
edits,
edits.
then we can discuss whether we approve of those edits.
And when is our next meeting?
And then maybe move on a little bit further from that.
Third
Is it the third? Are we the fourth? Third Thursday? Third Wednesday?
Thursday. Whichever one you can do.
Wednesday.
I actually can't do either one.
Right.
It was
You
nice-
can't do
It was
either?
nice of you to ask.
What days work?
Actually, I'm gonna be in Europe, so,
Oh.
I won't be, I'll be back,
Maybe we should push it out to October.
I'll be back on the 27th. So I could do, that would be the fourth Thursday. I'll be great. I'll be jet lagged and ready to deal with the details.
You
That's
can
right.
read it on the airplane.
We talked
I've
about
read it.
moving it back to Thursday. Was Thursday
Yeah.
the night that's always a problem?
Not for Jay, though.
Thursday, but that's fine. I mean, please schedule it. I mean, I don't have to.
Was that the one, or was it?
Thursdays is a challenge for me, but I can certainly make every effort to make it on Thursdays. Just acknowledging there are times that it will be a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, Thursdays work.
Right.
Thursday. The 27th. Oh, wait.
If Wednesday works for everybody, and Thursday,
Right,
but Thursday,
Right.
Wednesday.
Why don't we
that's
just,
what I think.
Yeah.
And if I miss the meeting on the 26th, that's okay. Or I can catch up again on October 24th.
Right, but it's.
That's fine.
It's your edit, so.
No,
Yeah.
but there,
If there's a day that works for everybody, let's do it.
No, it's
So-
not talking Wednesday or Thursday.
all right, so generally Wednesdays are better for me than Thursdays. But that particular Wednesday in September, I will be flying back.
Okay, so we could do
So
Wednesday in
we
October.
could do Wednesday in October, or we could do Thursday in September.
Is there a reason why we can't do Thursday in September and Wednesday in October?
No,
Just to adjust for the one?
So, but I don't want to be the one that causes such turmoil
You
within.
are.
I'm not a troublemaker.
I don't want to cause a problem either, but I do think it would be best if we were some consistent with one day or the other, because it's a public meeting.
Right.
That's true.
And people should be able to count on something, you know? So either fourth Thursday or fourth Wednesday or third Wednesday or whatever, but just keep it the same every time.
For what it's worth, I would vote for skipping the September meeting, going to Wednesdays starting in October.
And the fourth Wednesday in October is the 24th.
Let's do that.
How's that?
Okay, works for me. Thank you.
I don't feel like I'm worthy of my paycheck if we keep.
Well, you can work in between time, you know?
Well, you can turn back half of your paychecks. Sir?
I just wanted to remind you that I know you're working hard on the ordinance. It obviously won't go in for this vote, for the November referendum. And we're trying to get everything wrapped up for the spring town meeting by mid-January. Which means that we'd like to have whatever referendum question that you have to approve the warrant, the article, we'd like to have that in by December.
We will have it. I thought, my understanding was that we had to have it for March, not for this fall.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right,
That's what I'm
that's what
talking about. But I've got to prepare the budget. Right now, I'm working on the budget. We're gonna have a draft budget ready by the end of this month.
Okay.
So the warrant articles, we're going to have ready, the ones that we're putting in for the budget by the end of September. At least in a form that goes to the board, doesn't mean they're finalized. But your referendum article are one of those that is basically going to be voted on. So when you write that, we can wait on that for a while, because the board has to approve it. And then we move forward with it. But I just wanted to give you that time frame. So if you could think about sometime mid-December, having the thing wrapped up, or.
Does something have to happen between the time we're done with it and the time it goes to the board? Does anybody else need to? Do we need to
No, that's why I'm saying you've got time.
So we hand it off directly to the Board of Selectmen?
Well, it'll come to me and I'll put it
Right,
into his
right.
warrant article as we discuss the warrant.
Okay, so that gives us October, and I think we're pretty close to there.
But I was gonna say, so as long as we come ready to
Yeah,
To work
really
on.
tackle into it.
so it's gonna be a very challenging meeting. I think you should get here early.
Really challenging.
You should be prepared to stay late.
Can we
Do you want me to
bring,
bring a fifth?
can we bring alcohol?
Bring a fit?
All right.
So in October, we're going to discuss the amendments, the recommended changes. In December, we're going to have, this is our timeline, we're going to have a draft to give to the select board.
I hope we're gonna have a draft
Before
after our November meeting.
Okay.
So the hope is
November.
that in October, that we'll have most of it there, if not all there.
And then November vote on it.
And then pass it off, hand it off to the Board of Selectmen right after that, so that in December they
And
can.
then Ricky
they
can
have
just
the
rubber stamp it.
Well, they'll need to review it.
Yeah.
And then
Right.
they'll vote on moving it forward.
But that gives a couple of meetings in December for them to work on it.
So in December, the select board reviews, right?
Yes.
And this means that the hearings would be between their approval and.
Well, the hearings are before the town meeting.
Before the town meeting, between
Yes.
your consideration and the town meeting, right?
Yeah, because they have to review it and approve the warrant for the town meeting, and it's in that,
And there's a hearing process.
and it's a hearing process as part of that warrant.
Okay,
You might want to check out if you want a public informational meeting yourselves to answer any questions that might come up.
We could do that.
Do you really think anybody's gonna care what we?
Oh, I think after this discussion, I think we're gonna have people that are gonna take a look at it. Sure.
Think so?
I hope so.
want to hear another meeting.
I hope so. No, I hope. I mean, part of it is, we've said our responsibility is just to take the ordinance that's handed to us and apply it fairly. And the opportunity to participate and to provide recommended changes comes from the public's participation.
And now we're the bad guys.
Unfortunately.
No, you're not the bad guys.
Yes, we are. But that's I think we had that discussion last month, that recognizing that, yeah, our challenge is just to apply this fairly. And if there's a different document, we'll apply that one fairly.
Yeah.
But between now and then, I think having a public, I think what we ought to do is put that on the list of things to consider when we meet in October, so that if we're going to do something, we try and get it, November's gonna be a challenge, because we've got Thanksgiving.
When does the public information meeting occur? Before it goes to the
We
select
don't
board?
have to have a public
If
information.
we did have, does it occur before, it has to occur before it
Well,
goes to the
yeah,
select
if you
board?
wanted to get comments in, just to see if people, you want to address those comments.
Just
you
like,
wanna have it before.
just like the planning board did with the shoreline ordinance. There was a couple of weeks between the information meeting and the hearing.
I'm good.
Okay?
So can we, after the October meeting, can we get the stamped draft all over the place up on the website? So that we can point people there,
That's a good
with the
idea.
ability to
Yeah.
review it.
I have a bit of a concern that it may be presumptuous to believe that we can actually complete the activity in the October meeting.
If nothing else.
No, I mean,
I think we'll have it done by our November meeting.
It'd be nice to have.
Yeah, I
that
thought the
on
hope
October.
was,
Yeah.
the hope was that we can
Get it.
find areas that we agree on in October and identify the areas that need some more work, and identify what resources we need, so that by November, hopefully we can have collected that information.
I'm in the process of setting it up.
I guess I'm a little bit in your camp, Sam. Feeling that.
There's a September meeting.
Yeah.
That we should meet in September? Is that what you're saying?
That would be my preference. That way, September, we can pretty well wrap things up in October, hopefully,
I would
and
say
then we're
please
ahead
do.
of the curve. If something else pops up that we have to take care of, in between, we've got ourselves at least a little bit of a buffer there.
That would be September 26th.
I think that's fine. I mean, you're gonna have 6 out of the 7 here, and there are gonna be other meetings that somebody can't. I agree that I hate to be responsible for holding up progress when others.
Okay, let's reboot this thing, September, what was it?
September 26th.
26th?
So it's
Wait,
the
October
4th,
24th was the fourth Wednesday in October.
right,
So
and
what are we shooting for in September?
September 26th is the 4th Wednesday in September.
But you can't be here.
That's right,
What's the point of having?
but the other 6 can be, because I'm just one guy. I mean, I don't think that, we don't have to have everybody here in order to progress.
And we will have you.
And
here in October.
there will be an opportunity, I mean, I think, if I'm not here, it's my responsibility to get caught up before the next meeting.
He can complain in October.
And November, and December, and January, and February, and then my term is up in April or something, so.
And we will have your
No,
edits.
Yeah.
You do have,
September
you do have.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, and I think that my comments, I think they stand on their own. I don't think it requires a lot of discussion, and you
I
can,
mean, if we were going to disagree with them.
Then fine.
We would do it
whether I'm here or not.
with you.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I think.
But we can't do it in an email. We can't
No,
do it in
but
email.
I think it's fine. I think we should not hold up progress for any one member who can't be here. Especially when 6 of, we're blessed that we have a full panel now. You got 6 other people that are gonna be here. Party on.
Can't be here.
That's a technical term. Oh, yes, I can. It's a long fall. I think you get a free beer on it.
I know, and then we just say,
Even in coach.
Yes. All right, I move to adjourn.
All right.
I don't know, is there still discussion on what we just did?
No, they were just confirming the date, I think.
Right.
Okay, so September 26th?
September 26th and October 24th.
Yes.
Both of those days are Wednesdays.
Yes.
Okay,
And then it will be November 28th. So it's gonna be
And
the fourth Wednesday.
And that's
Which gets us-
Thanksgiving, probably.
No, the Thanksgiving is the 22nd. So
Okay.
that's the week after, which works out nicely.
okay, 26th and the 24th, correct?
Let me put this in the calendar for Wednesday.
Where are you going overseas?
I'm going to the UK.
Oh, nice.
England
Can I ask a
Northern
procedural
Wales.
question? The minutes, okay, so we just did June 20th, right? In July, we met, we had the hearing. You know, the findings of fact and the conclusion were assimilated. Should we have minutes from that meeting at all or not?
We should have.
We should have.
We could have a record of one page that just has who was here.
Just says who was here, what time we started, what
The
time
business
we
that was
ended,
conducted.
and
What we went over,
and what,
heard the appeal.
Conducted a public hearing
okay.
on such and such an appeal.
Okay, so I'll do that. I didn't do it because I kind of thought that the findings would be the result of that meeting, but then I got to thinking there should be something on the record for the
There
time
should be,
who was
but-
here.
Okay, so
Okay.
you're gonna do that?
I think we went, I'll do it, we went until 10 that night, right? I didn't
Yes,
write
we
down
did.
when we
I'm
did.
sure that npool@belgrademaine.com has excellent notes about that.
Yes, excellent.
And he has a recording.
I made notes, but I didn't, you know, it was on the facts and
Well, I have notes if you want, I wrote down the time we even took a break and came back.
I did too. It's like, no, that's not what I was.
Okay, any other business?
I think Jordan had a motion.
I moved to adjourn.
There you go.
There you go. You know what, you better watch it, because you're always the one that does that.
She does that every
I've
meeting.
been waiting all night.
Who's assistance needs?
It's
Did you forget your
7:55.
glasses tonight, or do you have contacts?
I lost my glasses, I don't know what I did with them.
Who seconded that?
Who's?
I'll second it.
Okay, Warren, you're the, Warren, you're the seconder.
They used to.
All in favor, right?
All in favor?
Adjourn.
We're done.
Oh.
Get the recorder out there, Nick.